Hello, this is the third class in the Python for Lab Work um, lesson plan. Today we're going to be looking at Python Seaborn for graph curation or figure curation. So Seaborn is essentially a graph creating module inside Python. So it's essentially made up of like various things. So Seaborn is part of the MATLAB, Pandas, and NumPy family. MATLAB is another graph building program, but it's more complex. So I want to go with the Seaborn first because it's more straightforward. Pandas, we already talked about that. It's basically Excel in Python, and NumPy is another data managing module. So first off is that we have this link to the Seaborn tutorial right here. You can see a bunch of things you can learn and use in Seaborn. It's one of the reasons why I want to teach this and not MATLAB because it has a far more friendly tutorial and resources to learn from. Secondly, another great thing about Seaborn is that it has this gallery system, which I have a link right here. Let me just go to it here. So you see it has an example gallery. And the really thing about this example gallery is you just look through it and then you find the graph you are looking for and you click on it. All right. So this is the type of a figure you want to create, type of graph. And it just gives you the code. It just tells you how to do it, like directly. And so it's very friendly, user friendly. And there is like nuance here, and you can uh, look up more stuff about like what everything means, but it gives you like a really good baseline to work with. And it's just you can just go to any one of these and click on it, and it just tells you. And click around and you see there's various things you can create. And here's something else that's very useful. It's the IPA, and it gives you like more details. So you can go like, okay, Seaborn object line, which is this, and then it gives you like more details about what's it's made out of, like how it works. So a lot of information, but very user friendly, and that's why I like it. So once again, you have to install Seaborn. You do pip install. You go down here to your console. Pip install Seaborn. All right. Once again, I already installed it, so it doesn't work for me because I already installed it, so it's not gonna install itself again. And now let's start looking at Seaborn itself. Go back a few times. Um, a flaw with like the example Seaborn gives is that they usually use like internal they use like example data inside itself. And so we're going to be using essentially this example data like they show, but eventually I will show how to use your own data. So first things first, as always, you go to import the modules you're using. So import Seaborn as SNS. Like Pandas, it has like its own like abbreviation that makes it easier. So Seaborn is SNS. And then you also need to import Matplotlib as PLT for use as well. So let's start seeing what this module can do. So run that. Run that. All right. Imported, good. You're going to set the theme. So sns.setTheme for the graph you're going to make, and you're just going to use the generic theme. All right. So all that is done. And then you can see here, this is like I said before, it's the example data that's like inside Seaborn to show you. In the future, well, in pretty soon I'll show you how to actually use your own data. But a lot of times they have this, all the time they have all this example data. So just remember that this is example data that the Seaborn gives you. So don't use it for actual analysis. So we just SNS load data set, and then the example data set, and assign it to tips. And then we're going to go down here, and then we're actually going to make the relationship plot, creating visualization of relationship plot, rel plot right here. SNS dot the type of plot you're going to create, which is going to be a rel plot, then parentheses, and then you're going to assign the data as what data you're using. So this is tips, so this is what assigned before. And then you're going to say, okay, this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. So x is total bills, y-axis is tips, correlation is time, hue is based on smoker, style is based on smoker, and size is based on size. And let me actually let me look at tips really quick. So you can see total bill, tips, sex, smoker, day, time, size. So basically you're creating a relationship plot that's based on all these different variables. So let's run this. All right, it's ran, so it's been created. And then let us run show. So it's plt show, so it's using the matplotlib function as .show, so it's going to actually show us the figure. And there you go, is the figure. You can see that it's split. Make this a little smaller, bigger. Get like all the information in. Oop. I don't know. So you can see x-axis is total bills. The y is tips. The colonation is time. So it's breaking it into two groups based on either lunch or dinner time. Smoker is hue, which is basically, it's going to be like, okay, if you're a smoker, yes, you're blue. If you're a smoker, no, you're orange, as you can see here. And then the style is once again smoker. And you can see smoker yes is a circle and smoker no is an X. And then size is based on size, and you can see it's hard to tell for some the X's, but like for the circles, you can see that like the circles differ in size. So it's a lot of data, a lot of visualized data packed into one figure. All right. Close that. So now we're going to, oh, sorry, I need to show you how to save. Where are you, figure? There you are. So you just right click on this and then you save. You go over to the little tab and you right click and you save as image. And then you can save it as whatever you want. It's just, so you can save this image, this figure. All right. Close that down. So now we start working. So this example is like how the Seaborn examples are. Use its own data. Now we're going to use our data to run this. So Seaborn from our data. So first off, like in pandas, we need to use OS. We need to use pandas. We're getting Seaborn again. And we're getting matplotlib again. We already imported these, so we don't need to do this, but I just want to make everything full. And then we're going to set the working directory. So basically where we're going to get our files. We talked about this a lot last class, but it is essentially this path. So these are the files we're going to be working with. And just make sure is just copying this path, but then also putting an R in front of it, meaning it's uh, a raw path, so it actually can recognize. So you don't have to make it a non-raw path. It makes it just easier for yourself. So we're gonna run that. All right, and then we're gonna do what we did last time with pandas. Is we're going to turn this data. We're going to take example one, and we're going to import it into Python as a data frame with the panda function read CSV. So, and then we're going to start making the graph again. As always, apply default theme. There's more, you can be more specific and change this, but we're not going to. We're just going to look at the data really quick. This data right here is actually the same data we're working with for this example. It's the same tips data. I just exported it so we can work with it here. And then we're going to make the same type of plot as before. All right. So it's basically it's the same exact thing. X, Y, it's all the same. I just wanted to use rocket. No, I didn't. Except for I changed the palette. So the palette is what colors you used, and there's a whole um let me there's a whole like you can there's different codes for like what colors you can use for Seaborn, and I'm just using rocket, which is like a palette, which is like a group of colors it will use. So we ran that again. So I don't remember if we did it. Yeah, we did. And then we're going to show it, and you can see it's the exact. We used the same exact data before as the last one. We just instead of like taking it from like the example inbuilt data inside the Seaborn, we took it from we used it from a local file, and we changed the palette to rocket, and you can see the difference, different colors, and I think I changed some other things in here. No, I didn't. I just changed the palette. All right, and you can see that the colors changed and some other data has changed. I think they just switched. Yeah, they just switched over and over. I don't know why I did that. Um, but that's how you get data from your own local files and use Seaborn to run it. Let's minimize this. All right, chart building blocks. So you can, as you can see here, like there's various like parts you specify inside building the Seaborn figures, and we're gonna go over that. So we're gonna, oh, there's this here, HTTP API. We went over this a minute ago, but we're just gonna go through it again. You can see like what you can. So you see, let's find sockets. It doesn't exist. So you can go through here and you can just see like, oh, what see what the building blocks inside actually mean, and we'll just go over this right now. And also, this is a better example of what we just did, and this is actually a link to like the actual API. So you go through here, and then you plot. It's not, you go through here and you find the the type of plot you're using, and you can just like look through like what everything means. Like, oh, XY is this, and the hue function we're using is this, and the size is this, and the style is that, and the weight is this, and there's like a lot more than we actually didn't use in here. So if you want to possibly even modify your graph even more specificity, you can look through here and find like different keys and ways of doing that. So kind of a plot to draw, corresponding to Seaborn relation plot. Options are scattered or line. So we're just talking about like the rail plot again. Column exciting x and axis, y axis is all from this once again. Call variables that define subsets to plots on different facets. Hue, grouping variables that will produce elements of different colors. Style, grouping variables that will produce elements with different styles. Size, objects determine how the sides are chosen. Methods for choosing the color to use when mapping. Palette, and then once again I have this link to the palette color system, which I showed you before. It's just like there's just different color groups that you can use, and then legend helps you modify the legend. So we're gonna go through this again. So we're going to make a rel plot. We're changing it to scatter. We're going to keep the y and the x is the same, colon is time, smoker, style same, plot, but legend false. So we're getting rid of the legend right there. So everything's the same, it's just missing the legend because we assigned the legend to false. Right. And you can see the data's still the same. Now I'm going to, in this example, we're kind of like mixing things up. You can see here is that we're changing time to smoker. So basically when we had time before, we're going to replace it with smoker. And when we have smoker, we're replacing it with time. And we have size, we're just changing things around. And we're setting the palette to step 2, which is a different palette. So we're just changing like what corresponds to what with the same data, like how the graph's going to build itself. And you can see here it has changed. Like now instead of make this bigger, instead of the groups being grouped, the two figures being split up by time, it's now by smoker. Tips and I think XY didn't change at all, but now time defines like what color and symbol the points are, and then tips are then what determines the size of them. So like as you can see, this graph building module is very flexible. So we're going to go over some basic plots very quickly. And when I'm doing this, I'm actually not going to use like data I have saved. I'm going to use the example data that actually Seaborn gives, just for ease of use. So we're going to use the linear plot. Links are here to the linear plot and how to use it. First, we're going to set the theme, and you can see that you can actually change the theme. Instead of changing the style to thick, which will make the lines thicker. Again, when you leave this blank, when there's nothing inside here, it just goes to the default theme. And then we're going to load the example data. Yep, which is just given inside Seaborn. And then we're going to run this figure. And then show it. And you can see that once again we're using this is our data, assigned it, Then we assign our x values, which is simply x and y in this example. The correlation is the data set. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. The hue of the data set is based on data set, so each one would get its own color. Color wrap is 2. Palette is muted. CI is none, and you could go through this and find out what each and every one of these things are, or you can delete it and see what happens. It's very basic. This is how you make a line graph. All right, now we're gonna go over a box plot. Box plot information is here, is linked. We're going to download the data. There you go. And then we're going to run it. And then we're going to affect the spine. And we're going to show it. And you can see here a nice little box plot. And if we just run this by itself and then run this, you can see that it's a little more. So this is the spine is actually affecting how big it is, not big, but how the trim is itself. And actually, it looks better without it. Oh, so I don't know why the example shows it that way. But yeah, there's a nice little box plot with outlier dots, circles, and then the 95% quartiles, and then the mean, and then the total range of the data. So a nice little graph. Now we're going to do a bar plot. This is just the normal data set. Run that. And then we're going to run the bar plot for species and sex, and then assign it to G. So run this all together. And then we're going to change the figure a bit, how it's located. We'll move it to the left, and then add access labels, and then set legend. All right, and go. All right. So the plot is a bar plot, a very simple bar plot, with the species as X, the body mass as G, the sex is hue, so female and male are different colors. Error bars are standard deviation. The palette is dark, so this is going to be based on dark colors. Alpha is, I think, the opacity of the how clear this is, and then height is, actually don't know what height is. Let's go look at that together. Height is inches of each facet. Okay, so that's basically how high it can go. And then the spine is left equals true, so it's shifted to the left. And then we're going to set the axis labels. So they're going to, instead of, because originally it would just default to actually calling the y-axis body mass G and just have that here, and then calling the x-axis species, these exact terms that you assign here. But when you set the axis labels, G dot set axis labels, see they set the x value to nothing, and then the y value to this. So you can see that the x-axis actually doesn't have a axis label. It just has like the what species are there. And then for the y axis, they actually have body mass G as here. And then they got rid of the set title, so there's no title. Title is literally blank. There's nothing there. And that's it. And this was a bit shorter session. It's um, this is pretty straightforward, especially after you learn pandas. Like the hard part is like getting um, getting to know this better. Uh, Getting those better just using these tools I've shown you, and just playing with it. It's but it's pretty straightforward. All right, and for this week's homework, you're going to open this. Is just is use the example data for the homework and create a figure that represents age, weight, and height from the data file class homework CSV. You don't have like I'm not specifying what figure. You have to figure out what type of figure you should use by looking at the gallery. Just figure it out. Um, hmm. And another thing is another important thing to know is when you're looking through the what you can define, it usually tells you what type of thing can be defined, like row columns has to be a categorical variable, um, categorical. It'll tell you what types of things. Sometimes it won't. Like this weights is probably is numerical, but it doesn't tell you. Yeah. So sometimes it will tell you like what you have to actually use, like if it's categorical continuous data, and just keep that in mind when you're looking at these. All right, that is everything for Seaborn. Just to get you started. Thank you for watching, and email me if you have any questions, and I will answer them either by um, explaining them myself or giving you a useful link. All right. Have a good day. Thank you.